Hi everyone, my name's Josh and I'm here today to talk to you about bees. It's a fantastic time of year to look for bees at the moment. Obviously it's spring, there are loads of different species coming out and they'll be around while you're out on a walk in the countryside and while you're out in your garden, so please keep an eye out for them. Even if your garden is just a lawn without any flowers, I'm sure there will be some dandelions in there and they're an absolutely fantastic plant for bees, so keep an eye on them. I'm sure there'll be loads of different species that are using them. So a lot of people often ask what actually is a bee. People tend to know they're looking at a bee when they are, but why is that? So bees are actually a type of wasp. Most wasps feed prey to their young, so they go out hunting for things like aphids, small spiders and caterpillars. They take them back to their nest and they're the source of protein for their young. So bees have evolved to have a different source of protein, which is pollen. Obviously pollen comes from flowers, and that's where the association between bees and flowers comes from. So to help them collect pollen, most bees are really hairy because it increases their surface area and means they can carry loads of pollen on their body. So that's how you generally know if you're looking at a fluffy flying insect, it's likely to be a bee. So there's quite a few bees to keep an eye out for at the moment, but probably my favourite, if I was to pick one for you to look out for, is a hairy-footed flower bee. You probably have them in your garden, and they're like the race cars of the bee world because they're whizzing around all of the borders, especially the males, which are a small sort of buffish kind of coloured bee. They'll be racing around because they'll have a territory in your garden and they're searching, patrolling that territory, looking for females. The females quite often get confused with bumblebees. They're quite a big, black, solitary bee, and they have a little yellow patch of hairs on their hind legs, which kind of dangle down when they're coming up to a flower, so you can keep an eye out for that. And the reason they're called hairy-footed flower bees is because on the male's front legs they have this quite long comb of hairs, which you might be able to see if you see one sat resting somewhere. And when they're mating with the females, they actually comb the female's eyes with those hairs, and no one actually knows why they do that. They're pretty weird. Another thing that I'd quite like you to keep an eye out for, if it was up to me, while you're out on a walk in the countryside, especially if you're walking near ponds, lakes, rivers, things like that, sallow trees are out in flower at the moment. They're a type of willow. There's a group of willows which all kind of get called sallows, and they all produce these flowers which are like a ball of yellow about that big, and the reason they're yellow is because they're covered in pollen. And if you have a look up when you're out in the countryside, you will no doubt see loads of queen bumblebees on there collecting nectar and pollen to take back and start their nest wherever they've chosen to do it. So keep your eyes up and have a look for them.